Let's बोलो कुछ.
I thought, okay, happy Friday. Thank you for this. Thank you for joining us on this week's Friday study circle. And I would request that whoever wants to, go first, any reflections, anything that we have read this week, we can start the study circle. Thank you. Josna ji, you haven't spoken for, no, sorry, not Josna ji, sorry, Chitra ji. You haven't gone first in a lot of weeks. Would you like to
No
go first
problem.
today? Yeah, thank you.
No, I took up a simple thing today, actually, not about any transformation or quality change, but about this puja days, no, actually, about Durga's coming. Yeah, what mother said about it. That I will read that from an All India magazine, Mother of the Gods, All India magazine, February 2017. Durga's surrender to the Supreme. During the whole time Sri Aurobindo was here, the four entities he speak of, the four aspects of the mother were always present. Did I ever tell you, last time I went down for the pujas, yes, it was the year before last, in 60. After that anniversary, first anniversary of the supramental descent, February 29th, 1960. Durga used to come every year 2 or 3 days before the Durga Puja. I was walking as usual and she came. That was when she made her surrender to the Supreme. Those divinities don't have the sense of surrender. Divinities such as Durga and the Greek gods, although the Greek gods are a bit dated now, but the gods of India are still very much alive. Well, they are embodiments, what you might almost call localizations of something eternal, but they lack the sense of surrender to the Supreme. And while I was walking, Durga was there. Really, it was beautiful. Durga, with that awesome powers of hers, forever bringing the adverse forces to heel, and she surrendered to the Supreme, to the point of no longer even recognizing the adverse forces. All is the Supreme. It was like a widening of her consciousness. This one I read today, actually. I used to read every for puja days, no, these All India magazines about Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. Yeah, this one. So this time I took this book, Mother of, and also very important thing Mother brought out that day in Savitri, Monica, we discussed about that, no? Actually, the psychic in man makes him exceptional. That is also there here. I will read it afterwards if anybody wants to share. Yeah.
So anything that you liked here?
Yeah. Actually, this Durga, no, I used to do a lot of pujas towards Durga, actually. So, yeah, I am very much fond of Durga Puja and used to do a lot of with all rituals and all. And after mother entered into the life, it slowly went off, actually. And that time, something happened, and I went to once. I mean, he's a priest in a temple, Durga temple. So someone told me to ask some answers for a problem, actually. He told, no, that problem won't go from your family. It will always continue. So I came back home with a lot of anguish and sadness. And I took a book, and this one I read, actually. Durga surrendered to Supreme. Okay. We need not go to any priest or any goddess to go and ask all those things. It is better we stick on to mother only. Yeah. So this is the first thing I ever read about Durga, told by mother after my turn towards this path actually.
This first it said that these divinities don't have the sense of surrender. Basically, and then it says that the surrender is something eternal, right? But the sense of surrender is lacking. So, as in, their being are surrendered without the sense that I have surrendered. Is that what it's saying? That their being is signifies surrender, right? Would that
Actually, for that mother is telling that psychic is absent in them, in God and goddesses. Yeah, that day also we discussed about it in Savitri. Actually. That psychic only human beings have, no, that psychic. That psychic only can surrender. Not that God and goddesses, all of them are assigned with certain powers. They will always establish their powers. They will, yeah, but that surrendering to Supreme is not there with all. But definitely they are existing. In overment level, no, they are existing definitely. I saw so many people like that who are worshipping Durga, or Hanuman, or Shiva. They're actually, even their physical form will reflect that deity they are worshipping. Actually, that much adoration will be there. That is the reality also. There are mother wrote a lot of things in this book actually, Mother of Gods, in this All India magazine. Yeah.
Chitraji, on this, I'm also reminded of, this one, that story from Upanishad. I think, Taru, you also know this one story. Jab wo, the Devas and Asuras have had a fight. So the Devas won. And now they are celebrating, right? But they are celebrating in their ignorance, like in arrogance, they are celebrating that we have won, we have won. So I think Mother also refers to here, those divinities don't have the sense of surrender. So at the gods level, we also see Indra full of pride, all the Devas full of pride. And then the divine takes up a form of a yaksha. He comes and he goes outside the party, he stands and he says, okay, if you have the power, now I place this tinka in front of you, you want, try to burn it if you are the Agni Dev. And he's not able to do anything. So I think, so this sense of arrogance is prescribed many a time. We see in many stories to gods that they are not surrendered owing to the fact. And that's why human beings have the possibility, as you were sharing the psychic being, that we can self-exceed ourselves, owing to the presence of psychic.
In Savitri also, that day we read, no, we can surpass the gods actually. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
That is also there in this book. The psychic in man makes him exceptional. I will read that, or anyone wants to share regarding that?
I think,
we can connect. We can connect with
obviously.
This.
You connect.
It is the presence of the psychic which makes man an exceptional being. I don't like to tell him this very much, because already he thinks too much of himself. He has such a high opinion of himself that it is not necessary to encourage him. But still, this is a fact. So much so that there are beings of other domains of the universe, those called by some people demigods and even gods, beings, for instance, of what Sri Aurobindo calls the overmind, who are very eager to take a physical body on earth to have the experience of the psychic, for they don't have it. These beings certainly have many qualities that men don't, but they lack this divine presence, which is altogether exceptional and exists only on earth and nowhere else. All these inhabitants of the higher worlds, the higher mind, overmind, and other regions have no psychic being. Of course, the beings of the vital worlds don't have it either. But these later don't regret it. They don't want it. There are only those very rare ones, quite exceptional, who want to be converted, and for this they act without delay. They immediately take a physical body. The others don't want it. It is something which binds them and constrains them to a rule they do not want. But it is a fact, so I am obliged to state that this is how it is, that it is an exceptional quality of the human being to carry within himself the psychic, and truly speaking, he does not take full advantage from it. He does not seem to consider this quality as something very, very desirable. From the way he treats this presence, exactly that. He prefers to it the ideas of his mind, prefers the desires of his vital being, and the habits of his physical.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I think mother also comments on this, that those people, I think mother says it again and again, so many occasions, that the biggest failure, the biggest tragedy is not to have touch with the psychic within. That's our there is no other biggest failure but to not be aware consciously of your soul. Because that is the only purpose of human existence. And if that is not done, it's like manush janam, vyarth gava diya.
Yeah.
You have wasted a human life.
Yeah.
But I think it's so amazing that the system of education and all that, after it got changed after the Britishers, I think it mostly has corrupted us, because
Yeah.
the way it was earlier, the gurukuls and all these processes, they were at least able to have that connection, so that we can keep that connection alive. But now we are so focused on subjects, chemistry pad lo, maths pad lo, but we have no idea. At 40-50 we don't have any idea of our soul. It's actually such a failure, I think, here of us.
Those those education system, no, I see now very clearly, my daughter and my son, everyone, they can't face the life courageously, no, actually. They can, those qualities are not there with lot of courage to face the life and all. Really, it is not there, because it ended up with the studies only, not managing the life. When you enter into life, that will be very different, no, actually.
Actually, we were discussing that day at Taru, I was discussing this, something about parenting, and mother also shares that mostly children have the psychic in front, and that's why they live in mostly the body consciousness, because psychic is really connected to the body consciousness. And slowly, with all this mental education, although it also serves us some purpose, but it also serves to disconnect us from the psychic presence. So we become too intellectualized, mentalized, and then we cannot surrender ourselves. We have too hard a time to surrender ourselves, because we are just philosophizing all the time.
Yeah, correct.
Not able to really surrender with devotee. Yeah.
I think now it is all again coming up, no? Actually.
Yeah. I think there's this strong pressure, what mothers, as if there is a pressure from above that you have to go ahead. Either you get eliminated, or you go ahead.
Because we were so ignorant, we didn't know anything about it. We all entered into that competitive world. I still remember when my daughter entered into LKG, that school CBSE syllabus, they have all the things, all this, even for LKG, even languages also, different languages, lot of pressure. She couldn't, she was so childish. She couldn't understand anything. She just gave the paper plainly when the test occurred. Very little, no? So big complaint came to me. I got wild, actually. Now I'm really, if I think about it, really I feel very sad now. I know totally ignorant about all these things that time, really. Gave lot of pressure to her. because she could not cope up with the studies. She got very low marks till 6th standard. But suddenly in her 7th standard, she used to get very high marks because she put lot of pressure on herself. She studied very well. That showed up now, actually. So this is the effect.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
Jyotsna ji. Yeah.
I feel though the academic system is being blindly put to us by the British, and to a great extent we follow it, when the child comes home and how the child is brought up at home matters a lot in the composite formation of the child. School does play a role, but we also play a very large role, because at the vulnerable stages of our children's development, it's we who are there. Generally, the child comes back and is like an open slate, where the child comes and relates everything that happened and is waiting to know very eagerly your interpretation of those events. And the moment you don't give certain stupid events or certain meaningless events any importance, and you just relegate them into the background, it loses the emphasis for the child. My daughter failed her mocks in the 12th standard. Believe me, I was hysterical inside, because I said, what is this girl going to do? How is she going to pass the 12th and her entrance tests and get into her education stream? But I did not show anything. I said, beta, doesn't matter. I think you were just testing yourself, no? There's a lot of time. And, I took two friends into confidence, and I told them that this is what is happening. Can you tell her that there is something called hope? And this girl's psyche just switched and she excelled. She failed the mocks. They were not willing to let her appear for the exam. I said, no, this child is like this. She swings. And she excelled. And now, as she was appearing for interviews and all, I find that the kid, she was so confident that out of 600 kids, she got the PhD seat. And I asked her, beta, how? She says, Mom, you said don't not to panic. Just pray to mother and tell yourself that I'll give it my best shot. So all I did was give it my best shot. I slept well, stuff like that. And I realized that, just cooling them off, it's up to us. A lot is up to us.
Yeah, I miserably failed in that, actually. Only after I came to know about Mother Shri Aurobindo's teaching, I realized, but it became too late. Yeah.
No, I am a much older parent, no? So, so probably because of that it happened and the exposure is there. But then I tell a lot of parents even now, don't put pressure on them.
Along with that, I feel also, along with that, we also have to see that every soul has a journey, and there is a meaning in each curve and line. So we must not bash ourselves much, because we did the best as we could in our whatever, understanding we had, we did the best. And maybe that was the curve or the line that the journey had to follow. Yeah.
But
so today,
mother's teaching has a lot of effect, because once I came across the teachings, I immediately stopped scolding her, actually. Yeah, really, that teaching has a lot of effects, actually. Yeah, that is a beautiful thing in mother's path. No?
Yeah. True that. I think I just want to share something on, since we are talking about human beings, there was something on the ego I was reading today. It was really very powerful. I'll just share the screen. Yeah, so I was searching for something else, but I got stumbled on this and it was so beautiful that I just stayed here. So maybe we can go through these short packets of blessing, if one can say. Yeah. So somehow I feel, ego is my favorite topic because everything is a drama of the ego. The whole life is the drama of ego, and having tasted much of it, the ego thinks of what it wants and has not. All the time the mind is thinking of this, what I have, what I want, and I don't have. When we were talking of a sense of lack of worth, all of us suffer with this sense of lack of worth, and that is why we feel so happy if somebody appreciates us, कि यार कुछ तो होगा मुझ में, कुछ तो होगा, इतने प्यार से क्यों बोलेगा कोई मुझसे, कुछ तो होगा. So the ego thinks of what it wants and has not. क्या कमी है अभी, क्या missing है. This is its constant preoccupation. Beautiful, and the mind is always busy there. The mind is always busy there. किस तरह से अपने आप को, this self-aggrandization that mother talks of. How do I just add on something to myself? And later on, mother comes to the spiritual ego, that even when we walk on the path of spirituality, there also I want to just heap on everything and become something more. So this is the ego that works in us. The soul is aware of what it is given. So it's very content with what it is, very content. And it lives in endless gratitude. And I think that we realize when we go through our challenges and we feel grateful for the challenges. I think there one can be sure that something in me is beautiful, some power of grace is functioning. That it was so painful, bloody, it gave me so much of misery, and yet I cannot help but thank the phase. So that is the soul. The soul is aware of what it is given and lives in endless gratitude. Yeah. There was some more. I'll just read them out. All bitterness in life always comes from the ego. I think this is a masterpiece. All of these are really masterpiece. All bitterness in life always comes from the ego refusing to abdicate or, being so stubborn कि मेरे को बस अपनी जिद पूरी करनी है. And in that we suffer so much we suffer. We actually prolong our suffering in that stubbornness. And then mother shares, all that happens is to teach us one and the same lesson. Unless we get rid of our ego, there is no peace either for ourselves and for others. And I think I was discussing something with an astrologer, and the advice that he was giving was become selfless. I think that's an advice which can work for all of us, that you become, whatever you do, you don't do it with any expectation at all. It's hard, but that's the only way. And without the ego, life becomes such a wonderful marvel. Just like kids are, egoless, mostly, little kids, infants, toddlers. And their life is joy, as long as they're not conditioned. We can contemplate the divine smile when we have conquered the ego. Otherwise, we can just contemplate on our thoughts all the time. Yeah, I will take reflections after I just go through this. Yeah, and this is again so beautiful. Without the play of ego, there would be no conflicts. And if there were not in the vital a tendency to talk about drama, there would be no dramatic happenings in life. Again, and I was talking once to Alokda and talking about two friends who have come together, and they now, owing to conflicts, are trying to maybe part ways. And he's full of love in his talks. He always talks of this power of love. So he shared something very beautiful, that he said that love has the power to conquer every conflict and obstacle. It's only the ego which stays in conflict. So if we are in conflicts and they are not getting resolved, so I think it's just a lot of inner work for me personally, that to develop that power of love and its expression, which again more difficult than easier, said than done. Yeah. Yet those who live in their ego constantly in an ugly drama. All of us have faced it. Whenever we have been drenched in our dramas, it's just a play of the ego. if people were a little less selfish, things would be not so bad. And all I want is मेरा कुछ हो जाए, मेरे को कुछ मिल जाए, अरे कुछ appreciation, कुछ attention, some aggrandization, कुछ मिल जाए, some approval. And that's what the ego seeks. So I think it also brings me to the point that when I follow the dictate of a sense of lack, then I am actually helping the ego. So there is something that arises in me, which is arising out of a sense of lack. मेरे में कुछ कमी है, मेरे में कुछ कमी है, and then I follow the dictate. I am just being a partner in the falsehood. And in that, I kind of stray away from the psychic presence, from my own soul, become the ego itself. And meanwhile, she shares, we must meet all these adverse circumstances with patience, endurance, and equanimity. Again, I think this just happens in gradual process of our life. We are not, all of us are not full of patience and equanimity when we are going through. But I think we kind of develop all these powers slowly. And again, this was also so beautiful. The extent of your difficulties gives you the measure of your ego. This also was very powerful, that the more challenges I am facing, the more suffering I am facing, it's just the play of my ego. Yeah, and then somebody asks about my giant enemy ego, and she shares, ignore him and go through. Do not give so much attention to the ego, just ignore. Yeah, just last point, and then we can share. To get over our ego is not an easy task. Even after overcoming in the material consciousness, we meet it once more magnified in the spiritual, the spiritual ego, how big it can become. And then it requires a lot of vigilance on our part that we can keep it at bay. Otherwise, all this sadhana, how many years you have passed, how many challenges you have faced, these many years, all that comes to you again and again, like repetitive pattern. And I think one just has to ignore it, that no matter whatever I have achieved, I have so far a way to progress, so far. Yeah, so I'll just mute myself and please share anything.
Monica, since you said you started with saying that ego is nowadays your favorite subject, what is the relation you see between Maya and ego? So basically, Maya uses ego as its tool to inflict all these illusions, right? Like, obviously, it cannot act on the soul, like the first thing that you shared, in which there was a distinction between ego and soul. The tool of Maya then is the ego, right?
Taru, Melina, I had recently a revelation that we don't know nothing about Maya. Actually, whatever we are talking about Maya, it is coming from Advaitic perspective, Vedantic perspective. And Sri Aurobindo gives absolutely a different perspective on Maya. So I think I don't have anything to say here, because first we must know what is Maya. तो अब आप जैसे देखो ना, letters or yoga में he talks about Maya, he talks about living life divine, synthesis of yoga, he talks everywhere, but his perspective on Maya is far more inclusive than the Vedantic perspective of कि ये तो सब माया है ना, that ये सब माया है, इसको ignore करो. So he includes Maya in the creation. तो मुझे लगता है maybe someday on Friday we can actually go through that explanation from him, because
Yeah, in Life Divine it is there, very clear. He said actually, we can't. I mean, the worldly life is Maya, according to Advaitin, but we can't do that actually. Maya is even he said, I think Sri Aurobindo said it is a good thing, it seems. It is that some exact word is there. Okay, we will bring it up next Friday.
yes.
It's there in synthesis also.
Yeah.
He is not saying it in such a negative or a derogatory manner that we should renounce or denounce it. There is a lot there. I have never really understood Maya, so I stay clear of the word itself.
yeah, because Kabir ji, अब जैसे हम तो कबीर जी पे जैसे काफी डिस्कस करते हैं, now he says Maya is papini, kind of बेचारी को kind of papini बना दिया. Now Sri Aurobindo has absolutely a different perspective. He talks about the utility of Maya in the whole creation. So let us go through it someday. I think it would be interesting. Yeah.
I think Captain has to give whatever presentation. After that, I'll talk.
Okay.
If there's time, because he's been waiting patiently.
No, I think please start.
आप बोलिए कैप्टन जी, आप बोलिए.
About ego, we are is creating a lot of issues actually in our life. So I was trying sometime in my life that how to get rid of, like, or reduce. So in one place I read, see, it's like the recognition. First of all, I must agree that I am submerged in ego. And then once you recognize correctly, then it will not be there anymore. It will run away from this. So the correct recognition, or say in doctor's language, diagnosis, correct diagnosis should be there. If the diagnosis is correct, the medicine is simple, because that ego chap will come to know that I have recognized him in the darkness, and that chap will vanish. So this was about the ego, which I was, when it was being discussed about the ego, so it was coming to my mind that all of us are deeply submerged, greatly submerged in the ego. And this Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says that when I leave the body, that is the time actually the ego will go off. Means it is almost impossible to get rid of this. And this is only creating problem. He says in Bengali, he says, Ami mole ghuchive janjal. Janjal means all these problems will go away when I is not there. We call the I specialist. That is actually the ego. So this has to die. Means it totally vanish. Then there will be no issue at all. There will be there is no problem. All good. So this is the ego creating the issues which we are facing every day. That's all. Thank you.
I think that's really beautiful because, all of us, whenever we have touched the egoless state, even for a while, and all of us have touched that space again and again. I think that memory is always there, very, very sweet in us, that we were able to do something selflessly for either somebody or whatever the situation. And all of us have been having these glimpses of the egoless state. But the thing is that mother also talks about her questioning about the physical ego. She shares that, as you were sharing, Captain Ji, that it is okay to take care of the ego at the mental, emotional level. You can be vigilant and do whatever little baby steps. But when she was actually dealing with the physical ego, it is so hard to let go of the physical ego, because that is what is holding you together. The physical ego is giving you individuality. So I think we cannot even fathom on what level she went to get rid of this ego, because we cannot even think of giving up our physical sense of self. So I think better not go there, because what was the level? I can't even touch that level. But yeah, it's really, as long as we will be alive, as you were sharing Ramakrishna's example, as long as we will be alive, the ego will jump up in some or the other form. The only thing that helps, as some of you were sharing, is vigilance, sincerity and vigilance. Yeah. And as you were sharing, to recognize the enemy within. Yeah. It's hard actually. Many a times it doesn't appear like enemy at all. It appears so sweet and desirous, and we want to have it in our life, but it's only after we suffer enough. I think, as mother was sharing, that ego makes you suffer a lot. So if I have suffered enough, I think then only I can say, Bhaiya bahut ho gaya. I don't want it anymore. Yeah.
This surrender, I think the total surrender, I think that reduces ego. If we can do the total real surrender or inclusiveness, then probably we don't find difference between the two souls. So once means out of this, at least if we somehow this formula of total surrender we can achieve or attain, and then probably that ego will come to know and it will go off. That is one of them.
Does surrender follow ego or does ego follow surrender?
It's a difficult question.
Surrender comes only when the ego goes.
Yes.
If you really think, it's only when we tame the ego that the surrender comes. When the
Like
ego is sitting up, surrender doesn't come.
yes, but like we say that this was done by God. I am just the instrument. I am just the instrument. So this sort of the process starts. Like whatever we are doing, good things we are doing, or whatever we are doing. So we are surrendering that it has been done by God, by His power or His will or her will. Only the things are taking place. So this is one of the way that if we keep saying that, then that ego is not generating like our individuality. So that understanding comes that yes, I was merely the instrument, and the instrument or the machine was run by somebody else. So that was the feeling actually you have to bring, probably that may help.
यहाँ पे वो वाली बात भी आती है when we talk about this three kinds of ego, the tamasic ego, rajasic ego, and the sattvic ego, because I think it's important to understand where we are currently, where we keep on kind of fluctuate, kabhi tamasic, kabhi. So the tamasic ego, what little I can share is that tamasic ego is the one which does not even recognize that there is a need to surrender. It does not even recognize that there is something I need to do. There is a progress to be made. So that non-recognition and very self-satisfaction is the tamas, the inertia. The other, a step better from it would be rajasic ego, which indirectly knows that there is something missing. There is some work to be done, but instead of fulfilling the lack through surrenders process, it goes on to consume. I think that's where most of us are in the consumerist modernity, that I know something is lacking, but let me binge on food. I know something is lacking, but let me, get addicted to social media or something, or relationships, or, all this goes on, all the addictions that we have, all of us. So that would be the work of rajasic ego. Again, it has its purpose in evolution because it was able to move me from tamas. So it's a step better. कि भैया मैं हिली तो सही, अब चाय की प्यास लगी, तो I moved from the inertia and made a cup of tea. So that movement is very good. Otherwise, I can just be a stone in tamas. And then comes the sattvic one, the sattvic principle, where I recognize that there is something lacking. And I also see that only a guru, only a master can let me fulfill this lack, or, make me do the desired progress that is needed. So although I am still a lack, because the ego is full of lack, it's tension, it's lack, I am still a lack, but I know the true potential which can actually fill this lack. But we have to surpass this, and that's what Shiva has this Trishul, with 3 pointers, that will kill Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. All of them will be killed because what we are truly lies beyond all these gunas. Yeah, so he says ki aapko Sattva ko bhi chhodna hai. So I think that's the beautiful challenge, that unknowingly, knowingly, how it happens in our progress, that spiritual ego, that when we talk of, spiritual path pe chal rahe hain, ki mujhe chahiye, bhook hai, or words, that also has to be surpassed to arrive to the fullness of self. I think that's really very beautiful, and I don't know when I heard it, but it was really beautiful. It has never left me, in the aspects of ego and how they work in our life. And we see people full of manifestations of tamasic ego, the sattvic ego, the rajasic principle in us, we can recognize as many times also.
And when we see a person who is full of egoistic and we point out this your ego, actually, is it correct or not? That is my question actually. Only that ego points out that ego.
I think the ego would not point out the ego. For example, so imagine that you are with a guru. Now the guru has full authority to tell you that you're operating from a low state of consciousness. But I think the way we relate with in our personal relationships, we always mostly, there may be rare few cases or rare few friendships where we can take each other's, the arrows. There are few relationships, but mostly we are not with gurus, and hence we are not able to either take the blow or give the blow, because to give the blow requires tremendous amount of love. I must be in love with the other person so much that although I would be rejected, but I really want to tell the other person, and the other person has to be receptive also. Tali dono haath se bajti hai. If the other person doesn't want to, he is very happy in tamas. Mother says, do not move those people who are very happy in materialistic.
No, if that is a rajasic ego, even if I point out, that person doesn't know about what is it. And how will you correct it? No one. Ego, yeah.
But I think if we really love the person and want beneficial benefit for him, I think in our own indirect, implicit ways.
As you said, that there should be true love.
True love,
That time that ego arises up in me actually when I point out. So that time I can very clearly see that is my ego is talking actually.
Yeah, because something did not happen according to me, and hence I want to point out that there was I think this is something which all of us can relate. It's all of us go through such situations, and the work, finally we realize that the work is on my own self. If my being becomes full of love, my presence is enough to change a person.
Correct.
So the work is on our own self. We have to break our own crust. Give ourselves some blows.
Thank you.
I read two nice things. One was a continuation of last time, where we were reading on offering, consecration, and surrender. And we had read two paragraphs, and then we said we would read the other later. And one today I read on the power of imagination. So what do you want to hear?
Yeah, please share whatever is coming organically to you, whatever.
No, both of them are interesting because I was really, I always wanted to know, so I read the subject. Power of imagination. The other one is a little longish, so maybe on another day. The imagination is really the power of mental formation. When this power is put at the service of the divine, it is not only formative, but also creative. Yes. There is, however, no such thing as an unreal formation, because every image is a reality on the mental plane. The plot of a novel, for instance, is all there on the mental plane, existing independently of the physical. Each of us is a novelist to a certain extent and possesses the capacity to make forms on that plane. And in fact, a good deal of our life embodies the products of our imagination. Every time you indulge your imagination in an unhealthy way, giving a form to your fears and anticipating accidents and misfortunes, you are undermining your own future. On the other hand, the more optimistic your imagination, the greater the chance of your realizing your aim. Monsieur Q got hold of this potent truth and cured hundreds of people by simply teaching them to imagine themselves out of misery. He once related the case of a lady whose hair was falling off. She began to suggest to herself that she was improving every day and that her hair was surely growing. By constantly imagining it, her hair really began to grow and even reached an enviable length owing to still further autosuggestion. The power of mental formation is most useful in yoga also. When the mind is put in communication with the divine will, the supramental truth begins to descend through the layers intervening between the mind and the highest light. And if on reaching the mind it finds that there the power of making forms, it easily becomes embodied and stays as a creative force in you. Therefore, I say to you, never be dejected and disappointed, but let your imagination be always hopeful and joyously plastic to the stress of the higher truth, so that the latter may find you full of the necessary formations to hold its creative light. The imagination is like a knife which may be used for good or evil purposes. If you always dwell in the idea and feeling that you are going to be transformed, then you will help the process of the yoga. If, on the contrary, you give in to dejection and bewail that you are not fit or that you are incapable of realization, you poison your own being. It is just on account of this very important truth that I am so tirelessly insistent in telling you to let anything happen, but for heaven's sake, not to get depressed. Live rather in the constant hope and conviction that what we are doing will prove a success. In other words, let your imagination be molded by your faith in Sri Aurobindo. For is not such faith the very hope and conviction that the will of Sri Aurobindo is bound to be done, that his work of transformation cannot but end in a supreme victory, and that what he calls the supramental world will be brought down on earth and realized by us here and now. It's so beautiful because it sort of helps us to dream and be dreamers. So,
Yeah, very beautiful. Yeah.
in an
Synthesis of
artist's
yoga
world,
also.
it is amazing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Hmm.
I think Mother shares that if you have to run your mind, since we all keep on running in the mind, something or the other is always forming. So she says this sentence, that if you anyway have to think, try to take the thinking in a very positive direction, in the sense that say to yourself, all is going to be well, and every people will have goodwill, all the people will turn beautiful, and whatever. So the moment you notice a trail of negative thought, those of us who want to do this, I think she shares that if you want to think in a direction which is full of harmony, full of beauty, full of imagination, or in the positive side. And I relate this example with my disease. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, definitely I was almost, something in me was very, very sure that I have created it. So if I can create it, if all the material in the head and emotions can create it, then if I switch, I can also dissolve it. So although I was, not really dramatically able to dissolve it, but I think this shift that one makes owing to one's willpower, that now I have suffered enough. I don't want to enter those negative trails of thoughts again and again. Let me experiment with this now. I think it actually is miraculous. It's actually a power. It also is there is this little compilation by A.S. Dalal, Powers Within. He talks about powers of thought, and he brings up these passages from the mother, powers of thought and powers in imagination. And once in the pain and suffering course, I was sharing this passage, and so they practiced the passage. And one lady said that since a very long time, I had stopped dreaming. Jyotsna ji was sharing something on dreaming. Yeah? So I had stopped making these formations. But I realized that it was so beautiful to make them. But then I thought I was getting entangled in them. So we forget the last part. Mother shares that you create a beautiful formation, but then you offer it to the divine. So she forgot the last part, and that's why she was feeling so heavy and kind of entangled in that formation. So whatever formation we make, the idea is to get lighter, because our thoughts make us heavy. So can I make a beautiful trail and then offer it to the higher intelligence? That is the task. Yeah, it's really very powerful. The passage is really powerful, even a little bit, if we can use it in our life.
I often imagine, and I said I must take one imagination, that Lord, make me slim without doing anything. But it does have a lot of sense, because if you never get depressed or go into a negative spiral, things don't hit you.
Yeah. And I think even when we are falling into depression, because I've been through those phases, and I've seen that staying with these words really helped, and actually experimenting with this, that enough of depression, now let me take my thoughts into a positive direction. So that really helped even when one is falling into depression. Yeah.
Even in the pits,
Yeah.
it pulls you out, because my life story is a testimony to it, that pain, suffering, whatever may come, if you stay positive and if you fight it, that warrior in you, what you call, and you say, no, I'm not going to give in to all this, I'm just not going to let go. The mother just pulls you out. All you have to say is, take me. But you don't have to let go.
Yeah. I think this line is also very nice. Imagination is like a knife which may be used for good and evil purposes. So it's not really that our thoughts are bad. It's how we run them. And here comes the self-mastery aspect that Mother and Sri Aurobindo talk about, that more often than not, we are just a puppet of our thoughts. We have no idea where we are thrown away. And more often, it goes only in a negative direction. Since we are growing out of ignorance, out of darkness, it just goes by that. So the default pattern is negative. That is the default pattern. If we want to put effort, I think then only something can change.
You will notice in patients who have depression, you deal with a lot of counseling cases and a lot of those things in your pain and suffering course. You will find that there is a regular pattern. And the pattern is, they don't want to fight it. They want to give up somewhere. I just can't do this. I don't know why it is happening to me. So the thing of not wanting to fight it and self-pity caused them to go into that downward spiral. Had they stopped, arrested it at that point and said, no, I will fight. Let whatever wants to come. It snaps there and it takes an upward direction. So this is a regular pattern I have seen, and I'm trying to search for data on this from Mother and Sri Aurobindo, that how do you knock off that downward spiral and take it upwards so that we can help people? I don't know if you find something, do tell me.
मुझे लगता है यहाँ पे we usually, since the universe is based on delight, the universe is based on ananda, there is some or the other kind of ras, juice that I am deriving all the time. And once I have had enough of that sadistic pleasure that I take in my depression, because we all know whenever these are sadly phases that we go through, there is some or the other part which is enjoying the rasa of that sadism.
That's masochistic,
I don't know what is the name for it, but I've recognized that some or the other part is actually enjoying the juice of
Yes,
that
they
misery.
enjoy it. Yes.
Yeah.
Like my mother says here in this paragraph also, she's very clearly stating that depends on how you spiral it. You want to take it upwards, you take it upwards. You want to take it downwards, you take it downwards.
Yeah.
And for God's sake, please don't take it downwards. Because most of life we are doing this only.
Yeah.
No, I can, I'm testimony to it that if you fight it, it reverts. It spins around.
I went through a course, the neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So there, the whole thing is based on imagination. So something serious, somebody is totally, got into, say, grief, is not in a position to come out of it or something. So we make it a black spot, and we say, imagine this is a black spot here. Just look, this black spot, and you put some more light and put thought and all this, and have a look. So we make it small, and then he says, okay, by an aeroplane or something, now you are going up. So how can you see the dot? Is still visible? Yes, it is visible, but very small. So likewise, then we got to some height where that dot is also not visible. So if we imagine, it's basically a game of imagination only. By imagining, we can bring out that person from that grief when he is totally surrounded. And the whole subject matter of NLP is totally on imagination, totally on imagination. So it's a very great strength, as it has been told, it's a two-edged weapon. You can use it for your good use, and you can use it for bad use. So it is very, very important, and there are so many cure has taken place. Those who are suffering from some illness or other problems or something. So even say somebody has got scared of driving, is not in a position to drive because accident will take place or something. All this type of worries are there. Somebody has got a height phobia, the altitude phobia. So they cannot go in the lift and all this. And there was some Chinese video where they show that very high up there was a glass floor sort of thing, but it is all surrounded with the fencing and all. You will not fall, but that person will not go to that glass because he is looking down and he is about some 20 floor up. That sort of phobia. So these all can be removed by this imagination process. That is through that NLP. We take care of this. So it's a very vast subject. Otherwise, what I feel, it's a very, very vast subject. Imagination.
I think वही हो गया breaking our patterns. We need to be again and again get settled in patterns, and one has to just break them again and again. Yeah. कोई spiritual pattern हो गया, कोई एक ritual हो गया, कोई something or the other we get stuck into.
Yeah, because that hard disk, the brain, it has been written in a particular way.
Yeah.
So now that hard disk has to be changed. So it's a difficult thing actually. Earlier, when the DBase and all this computer programming came, then we used to say delete star dot star. It is so strong command. Whatever is there in your computer, all the programs will get deleted. Delete star dot star means everything. Delete everything. So similarly, here after deleting, then you can rewrite our this thing, hard disk in the brain, because we had belief, faith, and there are a lot of other social circumstances by which that thing is formed, and now we have to get rid of that, and newly what is the present situation, the good thing for us, so that is to be engraved. So that was that NLP about.
How much time do we have? For if you want the second topic.
I think
Morning
Cyrus
is
wants
here,
to
so
share.
maybe another hour, right?
No, not at all. I have a little headache. I've been sitting on Zoom since a long time. Yes, Cyrus, please share.
Yeah, no, not share. I mean, thanks a lot for everyone to share their experiences. Uh, I just wanted to ask one thing on the ego part, say like an addiction or say a bad habit. Is that also, can you correlate it that with an ego, or is that completely different?
So for that, Cyrus, we need to understand what is really ego. Ego is a sense of lack within. So yes, what you are sharing, that all addictions would fall into that category.
Okay.
Yeah, because if I'm living from a sense of lack, then I can make anything my sense of fulfillment, approvals, validations, drugs, because they give me relief, social media, because I get lost there. I lose this sense of lack. So all the addictions, including the thought addiction that we have, continuously default pattern of thinking, all of that would fall into, so I need to just fulfill this lack that I feel. And I think it's a great achievement if one can be okay with the sense of lack. Like, I don't want to do anything about it. Like, I'm okay living with the sense of lack and yet doing what is required to be done. Yeah, if anyone else wants to share, this is what I felt on this.
Right. Because, some people who are into these drugs or deep addictions, I'm just trying to relate it to, some, like we discuss a lot that a lot of us have that power within, but sometimes I feel, isn't it beyond us also, at some level, when it's gone too far away or too, deep, when you really need that help, from outside sources, there's that much one can do, probably at the beginning, but later on, it's, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just
No,
sharing my.
actually, this is a very serious issue. This can actually become a very serious issue if we don't seek help in the beginning, because one
Right.
can go down in the spiral into darkness, so much of darkness that one cannot really come out of it. And then we commit suicide because we really want the end of all that.
Correct.
So there is this book by Gabor Mate on the wisdom of trauma. There is also this movie that he made. So he actually elaborates a lot on what happens through our conditioning, which perpetuates this sense of lack. It's a complicated affair, after all of us, the whole human population suffers from it. And then to get solace, I give into drugs or some other abuse of some sort, because all that I want is peace. So, and I want peace, all of us want peace. So is it wrong that if I was suffering, I go to drugs for help? So again, a very, very complicated area.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And there have been many people who have done a lot of work in this area. One of them recently being Gabor Mate. Yeah.
Okay.
I also
Thank you.
think that medically, once addicted or once a person goes towards addiction, it is very difficult for the person to pull out because he fears the effects of withdrawal. I'm talking of practical things. He fears the effects of withdrawal, is not willing to go through it. A simple thing like withdrawal from smoking, and the person takes a minimum of 2 weeks to come out of it, in which he suffers so much. Alcoholism, it is killing for them, so they don't, that fear also keeps them away. But I have seen a lot of people during de-addiction centers and programming, that when they feel that they get the adequate support which is going to stand by them, they do make an attempt. They do make an attempt. Of course, there are many addictions which come through an inferiority complex, which plays its role and makes a person go towards escapism and something that gives you a high that you feel good and all. But if you really want to help somebody to get out of it, I think the mainstay, the rock, is support. If the person gets that feeling that he has a rock solid support behind him, which will help him through his suffering, they relent.
Right.
They do.
Yeah,
A
makes
lot of
sense.
them do.
Jyotsna ji, would you like to share the other one also, or should we call it a day today?
Whatever is the consensus, I am bright, despite all those hours of Zoom. But you remember we read on no, consecration, offering, and surrender. So there is a continuation to it, which is very interesting. So whenever you feel,
Yeah, I
because
think because it's like a very important thing in itself. And today we have already discussed really, kind of
a lot of ego.
lot of ego. Yeah. And on ego, just one very small sharing that I want to do is the first thing that, Monica had shared, that about kind of ego always complaining, and if you operate from the soul consciousness, or, when the soul dominates, you're grateful. I found it quite, I don't know, revelatory, because I've often wondered that people who are very grateful, they usually don't have much, in terms of, I don't know, financial status, or, I mean, it's very rare for me to find really, kind of financially stable people, or very good, healthy people to actually say, I'm grateful for this. But for the people who have actually been like, fighting and struggling, like they look that they are fighting or struggling, even at times to just make ends meet, in them I found a lot of gratefulness towards the divine. And it had, at times, I had wondered that why is it not possible for, I don't know, not like why is it not possible, but this contradictory thing, they had baffled me at times. And this is such a simple thing, right? That ego would not let you, right? The ego would not let you. It's not somebody's, of course. I mean, nothing is nobody's fault, and it's all a journey. But I was wondering at that paradox, and that makes sense, right? The more you have, it's a very big possibility that the ego is, all kind of busted. Ki maine kiya hai, I have done it, I have gathered it. And that's my entitlement. And the less grateful I am, like the lives that we are living, like it's just amazing. So, yeah. Yeah, so I think that's it. Thank you so much, Cyrus, also for coming. I think this is your first Friday study.
Yeah,
So,
this was my first Friday,
yeah.
but I've enjoyed hearing everyone out.
Okay.
So thank
so
you.
glad.
We have these animated, unveiled discussions on Friday, which we look forward to because there is no formality here,
Right. Okay.
and we enjoy it.
That was nice, of course.
Okay, thank you then. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thanks, Taru.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Monica.
Thanks,
Jyotsna.
Monica.
Thank
Thank
Bhag gayi
you.
Monica.
Thank you.
Monica
Thank
is
you.
already gone, I think. Bye.
She's been on screen, I don't know since when. So,
Okay. Thanks to all of
yeah.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.